Hey, this is Matt Denton, and this is the Retro Rewind for WWF Smackdown 3. Just Bring It for the PS2, published by THQ, developed by Ukes. And as you can see, we are going into a tag team match with one of the most popular tag teams of all time, the Hardy Boys. As much as I don't like the way that they've turned out, yes, they were popular back then, and essentially, this is what I would consider to be a rushed version of the Smackdown game. I know a lot of people are saying, well, what makes that different from today's games? This one was insanely rushed because of the insurgence of the PS2 system. The last game was Smackdown 2 on the PS1, and the graphics are barely even a step up from the PS1. One of the major differences between the Smackdown 2 game and Smackdown 3 is the fact that you get full entrances this time, and also you have full commentary, which I'm not that pleased about, because this is some of the most insipid commentary you will ever hear. And if you are a wrestling fan these days, you've probably seen TNA, and their commentary could be pretty fucking insipid. This one is even worse, and this is back when Taz was starting in the commentary business. One of the main features of this game is its arcadey gameplay. It's not as slow as today's games, and it's not as slow as later games, maybe from Smackdown 5 onwards, would become. So it's a lot like a regular fighting game with wrestlers. Except this one has a lot more variety than most fighting games. Especially when you get delving to hardcore matches and stuff like that, where you can actually roam backstage freely and go to various places like WWF New York, to the backstage area, to the locker rooms, to find the APA office, quote unquote office, as it was known back then, which is a huge thing for old school wrestling marks such as myself, to go back and actually see the attention to detail that they actually put in the APA office into the backstage area. And also, one of the other things that was removed from this game for future installments up until, I think, Smackdown vs. Raw 2007 was the ability to fight in the crowd. Now this feature in this game was very, very basic, especially since you have a 2D crowd, so it was kind of cheesy, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. The game itself, you can tell it's rushed, especially with the commentary, the really, really poor commentary, and the collision detection, which I don't think got upgraded till Smackdown 5, which is disappointing. As you can see here, we have a little picture-in-picture screenshot of Lita making her appearance in the game, which was actually pretty cool. Instead of zooming the camera out and taking you away from the match, it would show you picture-in-picture that somebody was about to interfere, which was cool. One of the early features that was removed was actually they would do a picture-in-picture commentary spot, which I'm glad they removed, because, let's face it, the commentary is not as important as stuff like interferences and stuff like that. 450 splash right there. 2 and 3. That was a quick victory there. There is one match that I did do in season mode, which I've basically kind of cut up in here. Not all of it, because it lasted about 11 minutes. Because I decided it was a good idea to take Steve Blackman, the Lethal Weapon Steve Blackman, and take him to the WWF title. And his first opponent, well, actually, the way it goes down is that Triple H is in the ring and he calls out Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is the WWF champion by default when you start the game. My character comes out, Steve Blackman, and I say, basically, I choose the ability to go and run in and deck Triple H. Instead of having a canned animation where you just deck him and you brawl a little bit, it will actually cut to a match, which would last until the first person's knocked out, which is a massive pain in the ass, especially if you're using an underpowered superstar like Steve Blackman. And it gets a little bit more obvious as you go through the roster of underpowered superstars, excuse me. Because I can spend most of my time kicking Triple H's big-nosed ass. But when I hit my finishes to try and get the knockout, he wouldn't get knocked out, which is disappointing as hell. So I spent 11 minutes kicking Triple H's ass, only for him to get a Smackdown, to fill his Smackdown meter, and hit one fucking pedigree on me. One pedigree. And Steve Blackman gets knocked out. As you can see here, Triple H is running away, which I don't approve of. Because now I have to actually try and chase him. And because Steve Blackman's an underpowered superstar, it means that Steve Blackman gets continually reversed and countered and what have you, which is a massive pain in the ass, especially if you haven't got that much of a patience level. But here you can see the grand finale of the season mode, where you can wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin, or the WWF champion at the time, for the belt at WrestleMania 17. Only to have Vince McMahon say, I'm gonna become the special guest referee and it's a last man standing match. Haha. In the interest of fairness, of course. The main problem with season mode on its own is that it's too short. Smackdown 4, 5, and so on expanded that exponentially. Season mode here lasts about an hour. Or at least this playthrough that I've done lasts about an hour. And that sucks. Especially when you only have the option of going after every... You actually have the option of going after every belt, but once you are set on a certain storyline, you're stuck there. Which is kind of shitty. Especially if you don't want to do something. For example, if you decide that you don't want to fight Triple H, you kind of go into a time-limited free roam mode where you're in first person and you go and look for trouble, basically. And one of the things that you can do is find Spike Dudley being harassed by his brothers, Bubba Ray and Devon. And I'm not a fan of that kind of storyline. I've seen it happen in real life. I know what's going to happen. And you can't get away from that. If you want to get away from that, you have to start from scratch, which is kind of shitty. But anyway, this is Smackdown 3. It was released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 system. Once again, published by THQ and developed by Ukes of Japan. I actually found it in my local CEX for about £1.50. So, it's worth a shot, especially if you're a wrestling fan. If you're not, I'd give it a miss and maybe go for one of the later series titles, such as Smackdown 4, Shut Your Mouth, or Smackdown 5, Here Comes the Pain. But thanks for watching. I've been Matt Denton. Follow me at Words from Prism on Twitter. Find me at my website, viciousprism.com, and I'll catch you in your next video.
We can't take our eyes off this match.